Hey everyone, welcome back. So now that we know how to calculate mean, median, and mode from just a list of numbers in a data set, we now need to be able to take measures of center from data displays, such as data displays being like dot plots, histograms, and frequency tables, for example. So it's a big one. Have your notebook out. A lot of information here. It's really important that you watch and kind of understand / soak up all this information, yes? All right. The three measures of center, quick recap. We got mean, median, and mode, okay? Again, we found these things from a list of numbers. Now we're gonna look at them from a dot plot, from a histogram, and from a frequency table, which you'll see is a lot harder to do. So here we go. From a dot plot. So I give you a dot plot. I ask, what is the mode of this dot plot? Maybe you're like, oh, I know that one, that's easy. But now kind of pause and predict, how could I find the average number of matches per box? This is the context we're talking about here. Or how could I find the middle number, or the median number of matches per box from this dot plot? So maybe you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll just list them out. But like, what if I have a dot plot that's bigger than this one? It's gonna take me a while. So kind of pause and predict. Do you know a better way? Can you think of a better way? And if not, don't worry, because I'm showing you right now. So the mode from a dot plot. This one's the most straightforward one. You just look at where the data peaks, or where it's the most common, or where it's the highest. And so we quickly realized that there's the peak. The most common number of matches is 50. Finding the mode from a dot plot is straightforward. So we have the mode is 50 here. Okay. From a dot plot, the mode is just where the data peaks. So then you kind of paused and predicted, okay, well, how can I find the average, or how can I find the middle number from this dot plot? And maybe you thought of, okay, well, I have to write out the numbers in a list, and then I can do the crossing out method, and then I can add them up and divide. So if I listed out all the numbers from the dot plot, there's the list. So you can see there's one dot at 45, but there's two dots at 47, so you need to account for two 47s in your list. And you can see where the mode is 50, 3, 6, there's 7 50s in my list, and that's very repetitive and it's very long. And we're gonna try to avoid doing that, listing it out right from a dot plot and then finding it, okay? So it says that would take way too long. Is there a quicker way? Again, maybe that was your idea. Now we gotta rethink it. How can I find the mean and the median from a dot plot? We need to be able to use what we're calling frequencies here. So like 45 has a frequency of 1 because there's one dot at 45. Well, 47 has a frequency of 2 because there's two dots at 47. And so what you would do is you multiply the data point by the frequency, and then you're ready to find the average the normal way. You add them up and you divide by however many dots you have. And so what it's a quicker way to do is put the frequencies on top of the dot plot. So if you're working on paper and pencil, or if you are on a Google form, maybe like jot down quickly, what are the frequencies? So I would literally put a 1 above the 45, a 2 above the 47, and then you can quickly notice, all right, there's 7 dots at 50. And so instead of writing out 7 number 50s, you just multiply. And so what that looks like in an equation, I'm gonna give you right now. 45 times 1, 47 times 2, 48 times 1. You can just see I'm multiplying the data point, which is the number on the x-axis, by its frequency, which I put at the top, and then I'm dividing it by 20 because there's 20 dots on the dot plot total. And this is for finding an average, okay? So we're using the frequencies here. I didn't list out the numbers. I'm not listing 50 7 times. Instead, I'm just gonna multiply 50 times 7 in my equation here. And when I simplify this, I get 990 divided by 20, which gives me an average of 49.5 matches on average per box, just with the context of this problem. Okay, so a much quicker way than listing out all the numbers, especially if we have a bigger dot plot than this. This isn't only 20 dots on this dot plot, 20 data points. We want to avoid kind of the listing it out method and use the frequencies. So put in these frequencies on dot plots, on histograms. It's meant to help us. All right, moving on, we need to now find the middle number, or the median of this dot plot. And so to find the middle number, you can do this the traditional way. So like I said, we can cross out, all right, cross out 55, and then you go to the other side, and then you go back to 47, and you can keep going this way until you get to the middle number. And if I keep doing this, you're gonna see that I get down to 50. Okay, I'm at this peak of 50. The median is clearly 50 here. So that took me, what, 3 seconds to literally just cross out on each side and find the median dot. The median is 50 matches. There's also a formula, and the formula is good for our notes. What you do is you take the total amount of dots, you cut that in half because you want the middle. You want to find the middle point. And then you simply just count to that number, starting from the left. We read left to right, we're going to start from 45. So I would say, okay, there's 20 dots. 20 divided by 2 is 10, and so I count to the 10th dot. And so you would literally cross out, all right, cross out 45, cross out 47, 47, 48. And when you get there, you're going to see there's the 10th dot. My median is 50. All right, so 2 ways to find a median from a dot plot. You can do the crossing out traditional method until you get down to the middle number, or you can use the formula. Take the total, cut it in half, and count to that number. 2 ways to find the median from a dot plot. Again, I'm going fast, but you have the ability to pause, so please be pausing and jotting things down. Okay. We are going to move on to the next data display, and it is a frequency table. We're done with dot plots here. We're going to go through each measure of center with a table, and then we're going to do each measure of center with a histogram. So a mode from a frequency table, again, mode, easiest. You just look at which has the highest number of frequency. So we're talking about pets in students. So you see which, how many pets do the most students have? And you can see that the most students, 7 students, have 1 pet. I don't know why that says siblings, but most common number of pets is 1. Okay, that should say pets. The mode is 1 here. It has the highest frequency. It's the most common. It would show up if we turn this into a dot plot. The numbers would peak at 1. Finding an average from a frequency table. I'm not listing these out. If I were to list these out, I would do 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1. I would need 7 ones. That's a waste. We're going to go back to the same strategy as we did with dot plots. We're going to multiply. So you're going to multiply, then add, then divide. I did this right on the side of the table. I know 0 times 2 is 0. 1 times 7 is 7. And I literally just put the multiplication out, and then I can transfer it into the adding. So you're going to add the frequencies now. I multiplied 2 students have 0 pets. 7 students have 1 pet. 3 students have 2 pets. And so you just multiply those up, add them together. I'm in the way, but you can see that 24 divided by 15 gives me an average. Students on average have 1.6 pets. We know that's not possible to have 1.6 a pet, but that's the average that students at the school, for example, have. And we did that by multiplying the frequencies, then adding them up, and then dividing by the total number of numbers so you would divide by the total. And so there's 15 numbers if I added up the frequency column, and that's what you would divide by. Okay. Finding the median from a frequency table. There's my table. You can do it the same way we crossed out with a dot plot. And so this one kind of works because it's kind of starting out symmetrical. What I would do is I would cross off the first 2 numbers that appear in the table. So you'd cross off, or rather the last 2. And then whatever you do to the bottom, you'd have to do the top. Okay, so now I'm crossing off the 2 up here. And you're going to keep going at this pace through the table until you get to the middle number, or whatever you're left with. So then you cross off 1. But there's 7 here. So you're like, how could I cross off 1? So you just cross out the 7 and take 1 out. So now you're left with a 6. And then you cross out the 3. And then you subtract 3 from the 6, and you're left with 3 dots at 1. So the middle number is 1 because you're left with 3 ones. And you kind of ask yourself, well, what's in between 1 and 1? It's just the number 1. So the middle number of this frequency table is 1. All right, that's one way to do it. You can also resort back to that formula. It'll always work. And so what that does is you take the total frequency, so you basically add up, you add up the number of, I'm covering it, but there's 15. I asked 15 students. So you take 15, you divide it by 2, and you just count. So it's between the 7th and the 8th value, and so then you go to your table. Okay. 2, and you're trying to get to the 7th, so you obviously know it's going to fall in this bin, and so your middle number is 1 pet. So your median is 1 here. All right, so that's using the formula from a frequency table. Now we have to move on to histograms. Histograms. A few things to note here. Histograms bin the data into intervals. We can't see the discrete values like a dot plot. We just see like how many data points are in a certain interval, right? So here's an example. We're talking about tree heights. Let's move me back. I have the bins. They're counting by 50s here. Their bin width is 50. And I have the frequency here. We're talking about number of trees and their heights, okay? If I want to figure out the mode isn't an actual number, it's just an interval. And so what that means is you just look where the peak is. All right, the peak is right here. So the mode is an interval. You can't say the mode is 50, no. The mode is between 250 and 300 centimeters. The most common tree height is this. This is our answer here. Between 250 and 300. And you need to remember to write that as an interval. With histograms, your answers are going to be intervals, not discrete numbers. Okay? Totally fine, totally acceptable answer on a quiz. You'd say the most common tree height is between 250 and 300 centimeters. Modes from a histogram, again, just find the peak. Peak is right here. Between 250 and 300. All right, moving on to a median. Sorry, I think I do mean next, actually. Let's see. Yeah. But the average, so can we even take an average from a histogram? And it says, since histograms have intervals, right, there's no way to find the exact average because we don't have the discrete data points. So you're never going to see a question like find the average tree height unless you have a dot plot or a histogram or a data list listed out. It's impossible to find an average from this histogram, so we don't need to worry about that. All right, and the last thing we're going to need to be able to do is find a median from a histogram. Here's the formula again. Remember, it's never failing us, okay? You take the total, you cut it in half, and you count to that number. So here's my example of a histogram. And notice how I have the frequencies listed here? It's going to be very helpful, okay? So I have the frequencies. To figure out how many people I surveyed, all you do is you just add up the frequencies. So you're going to add up everything I just circled in red here. And I got 18, so I asked 18 people. We don't have a context here, but that's the total frequency. You cut 18 in half, you're like, I know what that is, it's 9. And so what you do is you count to the ninth data point, and you see what interval it falls in. So there's my frequencies, and I'm just going to count to the 9th one, and then name that interval as the median interval. Okay, so 2 plus 1 is 3. Plus 4 is 7. So that means the 9th number is going to fall in this interval right here. And we can name that interval using the x-axis labels. So from 6 to 8, that's where the median number falls. And so again, you don't give me an actual median number. You tell me the interval that the median falls in is from 6 to 8. And then you call it a day. Because histograms bin the numbers into intervals. They don't tell us the discrete data points. So your answers for like mode and median are going to be intervals, not actual numbers. Okay? I went really fast through that, just realizing it's only 13 minutes, but I hope you go back. Anything you're confused about, pause the video, jot some things down, and again, we're going to be practicing this a lot in the next few days. All right, bye.